Hey everybody, this is Mira Beck, the founder of Overnight Success Publishing, and I'm here at our Overnight Success Studios today with my longtime friend and client, Dustin Mathews. And welcome, Dustin, first of all.
Excited
I'm glad
to be
you
here.
stopped by.
Yeah, excited.
And with the Overnight Success theme, we always talk to people about their overnight success. And as you may have seen at other interviews, overnight success in my book really is the moment you decide to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about get-rich-quick schemes and none of that stuff. We're talking about simply the moment in your life when you decide you want to do something more, that you want to do something with your life, and you decide to set a goal or finally do something with purpose. And I love these interviews because, just listening to people's stories.
Yeah.
And really what's kind of underneath the success that people see today is very inspiring, because not everybody starts on the top. Nobody starts on the top unless you really win a lottery or are born into some family that already has a whole bunch of wealth and money and whatever. But most people start on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly show up and people think, oh, you just did that overnight. But
right.
The working title of my book was Overnight Success and the 17 years leading up to the night. And because there's always years and years of either, whether it's struggles or trial and error or whatever you want to call it, before the success actually happens, right?
Yeah.
And just to be careful about clarifying what success is, success really is whatever it means to you. So it's a very individual thing. It's different thing for me, it's different thing for Dustin, it's going to be different thing for you. So you just need to decide what would feel successful if you got to that point. And that's kind of your ending point. And then you need to figure out where you are today. And if your success is related to your health and you want to lose 20 pounds, then that's your end goal. And the beginning is your current weight. And now there's going to be a gap. And the gap is really the steps you need to take to achieve your goal. So it's as simple as that. And again, it's going to be totally different for everybody. And today with Dustin, we're going to just dive into your story. And
Sure.
I know that you went from not be able to talk in front of people or take a speech class to published author of this awesome book. If you want to share the title of Guide to the No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations. Let's see, this way maybe. So how do you go from not be able to talk in public to writing a book on public speaking? So I'm super excited about this interview. I hope you are too. And let's just dive right in, Dustin. So tell me your overnight success story. How did it even start? Like, tell me, where did you come from to begin with?
Where I came from was actually born in Japan. It's a fun fact. I was actually born in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, if anyone is interested. But I could still be president if they need me.
Oh, yeah? No,
born on American soil, military base there. They consider
so it was military base, okay.
Yeah, they consider that American soil. So when you ask me that question, I immediately think of like my public speaking story. So I was back at FSU many moons ago, and there was one thing stopping me from graduating. It was this frickin' class called public speaking, and so of course I needed to get out of there, and I needed to make my parents happy, and I wanted to make my own way in this world, and so this frickin' class was in my way, and so I signed up for it, and I remember going into this auditorium, and there's 300 kids there waiting for the professor to come out, and there's this like murmur over the crowd. And so eventually the teacher walks out on stage and says, listen, you're given 10 talks. 7, are going to be in smaller breakout sessions, and 3 are going to be in front of all 300 people.
Wow.
And so what's funny at the time is like I left thinking like maybe I can find a smaller stage, which nowadays like I want a big stage because of the right people, I should say.
That's funny.
So I remember leaving, but the challenge was I had to take this class. And so what's interesting was I was thinking mentally, I'm going to just find the smaller section. So I sign up, and Mira, I find myself on that same part of campus, same building. It's the same auditorium. And so it's the same pitch and everything. Now, I would love to say today I conquered my moment and my overnight success was there, but it wasn't. And so again, I retreated out the back door.
Wow.
Now I think it's funny because I became so motivated by fear to not take this class that I think I actually did more work than was required. And I know you have a very similar story. And so I went out and found the legal loophole. I asked students, I asked teachers, I read the student handbook, which no one reads the student handbook. And so finally I came across my loophole. And so it said basically if you had taken this class in high school, you could get out of public speaking. And so the class was Model United Nations. And I took it. And what's funny is that I was public speaking. I was Great Britain, and I had to argue a case in front of 100 other nations at this Model United Nations thing. But what's unique was I didn't know that I was doing it, I think because I was chasing the girl.
Okay.
Now, it didn't work out with the girl, but I was able to I took that class, and so they told me, listen, you get the teacher to write a note for you, and you give it to us, and you don't have to take this class. So not leaving anything to chance, and as you tell people to do with testimonials, you should like make it easy for them, write the script for them, or coach them through it. I wrote the letter for the teacher, and I said, listen, you bless this thing. If you don't like it, you change it. And I will, I'm happy. I just want to get this letter. And so I got the letter. I turned it in. And so I was able to get out.
Graduated.
So I got out. So I didn't actually have to take public speaking. I was so afraid of it that I found this loophole. And now, obviously, I run a company and wrote a book about presentations.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like you said, I definitely had a similar story. I switched my major like 7 times because I was afraid of public speaking. And it's definitely funny how. And I ended up taking the online version, so I wasn't as lucky as you. I didn't find the loophole.
They didn't have that. I didn't have that, yeah.
But it was the first time they introduced online public speaking. So I'm thinking that's awesome. It's going to be online. I don't have to do anything. And in the beginning, they were like, you have to go to Toastmasters and do 2 presentations there. You have to get your own crowd. So now I had to actually solicit people to come to listen to me. Record it and send it on VHS tape back in the day to the teacher. I mean, it was crazy. So, I could have done it probably a long time before that. But just like you said, sometimes you just get faced with, the situation, and you just take it at that point. You don't think anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, so that's pretty hilarious. So you graduated from FSU.
Yeah.
What did you graduate with? What kind of degree?
Information studies, which is the same school that a librarian graduates from.
Really?
But I actually, too, switched my major because I wanted to be a computer science nerd. I was a nerdy, introverted guy. I know it's as crazy as it seems now, but I was that guy. And so I was computer science, and they wanted me to take physics. And so I said, I'm not going to take physics. So I changed my major. I found this loop. I guess I was into loopholes at the time. And so I found this thing like in the library school. They had this thing, a track called network administration. And this is when wireless was really hot. I mean, it's common nowadays. But I'm like, this is going to be the wave of the future. So I should get wireless networking certification and all this. And so I went to that school, graduated with an information science degree.
Oh, that's cool.
Information studies,
Okay.
Which is funny now in the world that we operate in because we sell information essentially. So, but
and
different.
I think one of the 7 majors, I think I wanted to be a network engineer too.
Yeah.
I think it took 1 class for me to change it to something else after that. But that's funny that I didn't even know that about you.
Yep.
Okay, so now you're done with school.
Yep.
And what's next? What did you do after school?
Yeah.
Did you actually get a job in network engineering, or
no?
What
my
happened?
Parents were not thrilled at all. Like I maybe partied a little too much in school, and so I didn't do. I had 1 internship, and it was very short-lived, and so I had like nothing going for me. And so I moved back in with the parents, and was not thrilled, and they weren't thrilled either. My dad wasn't, especially after investing some money in this whole process. And so the girl that I was chasing in high school had handed me a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, cool.
So I was like excited, and I got this book, and I actually started ignoring her, but I was so fascinated by this book, and I read that book, and he's got like a couple in the series, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, real estate is my thing. Like I'm gonna be the next real estate millionaire. But it was in this process that, Rich Dad says, go find your rich dad, your mentor.
I see, okay.
And so I went to a local real estate club here in Tampa, Florida, and I met a guy by the name of Dave Van Hoos, who was starting a company. And I'm like, oh, Dave, teach me how to buy real estate, and I will come work for free. Like, that's what the Rich Dad says.
Yeah.
And so Dave said yes, because Dave could barely turn a computer on. And here I was, information studies guy, nerdy, techie guy. And so it was like a match made in heaven. And so he started showing me real estate, but that wasn't my passion, I figured out. It was marketing.
Oh, okay.
And so basically I was tagging along with Dave as his, what's the term, like Girl Friday or the male version of, I was Dave's assistant, like his do boy, if you want to call it that. Sure. And so Dave would say, hey, meet me at the Starbucks. And that was we'd go work out because he always says I was skinny and hunched over because I had split with that girl and I was very depressed. And so he always tells the story of, I got to get to the gym. So we went to the gym first, it gives me some confidence. And then we go to Starbucks and start working away. And so it was in this process I met Dan Kennedy. And so I discovered direct response marketing. And I said, whoa, you can put words on paper. You can put words, in a speech or on a video nowadays, and you can get people to like give you money or raise money for a charity or like show up at a seminar or like at an event. And so I immediately became fascinated because I never took a business class at school. I never took psychology. And so I was like, wow, you can actually motivate people to take action. And so like that was like the next journey for me, was studying like the psychology and marketing to get people into action.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And what year was that roughly? Do you remember?
2004 was when I graduated. So it was around that. Yeah, it was around that time.
Actually, okay. That was mine too. 2004.
Yep.
And then meeting Dan Kennedy, maybe 2006, I think, was the first time I read one of his books. So we had a pretty similar timeline, actually. You and I met originally at one of the local Dan Kennedy masterminds. Yep. So that was pretty cool. Right. And then, I totally forgot about, I ended up then running that whole chapter here for a couple of years too. So we definitely have a big ties to Dan Kennedy and the book that we already showed, but we can show it again, is with Dan Kennedy as a co-author, right? So now the guy that was your mentor sounds like, and that's where you discovered your passion for marketing. Now you actually wrote a book with him.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
That's pretty amazing. So you work with Dave, and you're his marketing guy.
Yep.
What kind of stuff were you doing at that time, or what was your life like at that time?
Well, I'll share with you the turning point story. You ready for this one? So I'm doing marketing and I'm like behind the scenes, like, and you know this world being behind the camera. So I'm like behind the scenes and Dave's in front and doing speaking. And so it comes to this point one day where Dave calls me and he's like, listen, I'm closing on my condo. You have to do the presentation. Now that whole story I shared with you about public speaking at school, I shared with Dave. And I told Dave, listen, I'm not the guy for the same reason why I told you. And so he says, listen, if you want to work here and continue to have a career and learn all this cool stuff that you're learning, you need to speak. And so I was like you in that class when you determine like, okay, you can't get out of it. I was there. There was no one else to do it.
That's really cool.
So I had to do it. And so I remember going and taking a shower for some reason. Now, I didn't know about visualization and meditation, all the stuff that I know now, and you know. And so I didn't know about this, but that's what I was doing. I was visualizing what the heck is going to happen, what am I going to say? And so I remember I get out of the shower, towel off, and I'm getting ready, and the phone rings, and it's Dave. And he says, oh man, I got some bad news. And I'm like, Dave, what worse could it be? Like, I got to do this naked? And he's like, no, I'm not closing on my condo. Now, immediately I think, that's not bad news for me, because like, I don't have to talk anymore. But it was bad news for him. Yeah. So I'm getting ready. I'm going back to the office now to finish out the day, and the phone rings. Who is it?
Dave?
It's Dave. Now, those moments in life, you've coined this concept, the overnight success. That was one of those points where that was like a key decision to my overnight success, and that's why I've written the book and why I'm here today in front of the camera. I answered it. I mean, you could say I didn't have to answer it, but I probably wouldn't have had a job. But I answer it reluctantly, knowing that life is going to change. And so I answered the phone call, and Dave naturally says, I'm closing on my condo, you're giving the presentation. And of course, the weight of the world goes back on my shoulders, and I'm like, ah. So long story short, I end up doing the talk. Now, in that moment, when I'm on the stage, there are people in the audience that are double, they're some triple my age. And if you think I have a baby face now, imagine me like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. I must have looked like 12. And so the big thing in my head, the mental block for me was, they're not going to take me seriously. They're going to make fun of me. Like, what does this kid know? How can he teach me about foreclosures and real estate? but that's not what happened. Like, because I had specialized knowledge that they knew nothing about, and they wanted it. They wanted to be real estate millionaires, and I had some piece of the puzzle for them. They looked at me, they listened to me, and we actually sold some stuff.
That's cool.
Doing it the wrong way. I was like high on adrenaline, and it was that energy that helped me. And so that was really the pivotal moment of like, okay, that was a key overnight success point for me, because now I realized that thing I had been running from, opportunity was knocking all this time. I had been avoiding it, but I had taken that step. I had to, really. I could have quit, I guess, but I took that step, and the whole world changed for me at that point.
And I'm sure it wasn't as bad looking back, right?
No.
Afterwards, it's amazing when I remember my very first talk, and being in the same boat with you for public speaking.
Yeah.
One of my clients and friends, Michael Gravett, I don't know if you remember Michael. Yeah.
Yep. Safety
so
technology.
So we did his event, and he called me. I think he told me on Saturday that on Sunday he's gonna call on me to talk about video marketing. I never spoken in front of people before.
I love it.
So Sunday morning, sure enough, he tells me, "Come on over, let the camera guy just stay on the shot." And it was like out of body experience. So first my spirit left the body, and then I saw myself walking up on the stage. And then I talked about video marketing, which, it's when you know your topic and kind of are passionate about it, you can talk for hours. So it wasn't a problem for me to speak for 30 minutes about some basic video marketing strategies to use, so his dealers for the safety products can use. And then at the end, I asked, if somebody has any questions, and suddenly I had like 15 or 20 people lined up for questions. And that was amazing, because now I knew they listened. They got something out of it. They wanna, some questions answered. So it was amazing, but I, honestly, I don't remember anything because I was just out of my body. But looking back, I was so grateful to Mike that he let me do it. And it was just such a great thing. And he told me that someone else did it for him earlier. And so he was kind of like paying it forward almost. And so it was amazing. So
we did that for Austin, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was probably a little more motivated to want to do it.
Sure.
But I believe we gave him, well, maybe his dad did, but outside of, the family business, we gave him that opportunity.
The opportunity. So it's really cool. But so it's amazing. So you got to the point now that you realized that speaking is not as bad, and you were able to sell right out the gate, which is great too, because a lot of time people bomb and they don't sell anything. That could be a different story maybe even, but what happened next?
Oh man, the growth of Foreclosures Daily was the company, and so we made Inc. 500. So we just replicated. We just did a bunch.
Rode the wave.
Yeah, we rode the wave. I started learning about newspaper advertising and how to get more people there. We did boot camps and seminars. But there came another point. Now that you're good at this, asking. So I came a point where I'm like, I was working for Dave. I wasn't an owner. I wasn't an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so I had been there. I want to say 3 years. Yeah, at least 3 years. And so I'm like, you know what? We had all these gurus coming in and trainers and speakers like, you can do it. You can go out there and do it. And I'm like, all right, I guess I can do it. Real estate wasn't going to be the vehicle. And so I kind of fumbled my way in the world, and I knew a little bit about marketing. And so I stumbled into a mastermind, the Winner Circle, and I was volunteering again, kind of the rich dad strategy. So I was volunteering, and I actually was made to sell. So but selling the gurus who spoke for a living. So like I conquered that speaking thing, but now like the whole thing of like, it's like try to go sell Donald Trump or try to go sell the best salesperson in the world. Like they know every trick in the book and strategy. And so I had to present and sell. And so I sold a package there that they needed. And I sold it for such a low price. So people bought. And so it was when I started onboarding or bringing on these clients that one of them was a business credit expert. And so I said, he gave me money, and then I said, I was reading his market, and I'm like, is this really true? Like, can you get people a lot of money? I'm like 25 at the time. I'm like, can you get me money? Like, who's gonna give me money? Like, right? No work, like relatively little work history. I'm so young. And so I give him back money, or I give money the other way. And so he sells me a package to go set up business credit. Gets me $93,000 in 90 days. Now this is when the credit was like booming. And so I was like, whoa, this is a product to sell. This is a product to market and go out. And I said, Mark, you're doing this as a service. Why don't you package this into information as an information product? And so what we did was we packaged we packaged it, and I went on the road and I sold it. And so we did $1 million over the course of a year selling business credit products and coaching and consulting.
Yeah. And that's how I remember the video that you did for the king of unsecured loans.
That's
and we did green screen videos with king's hat and all this stuff, and it was cool. Hopefully I can one day I can find it. Hopefully, but
I got it somewhere.
I know that it was fun. So now you got your own info product. So you kind of got into the info business on your own instead of just being the sidekick today for being behind the scenes, even not even sidekick. So that must have felt really awesome, right?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
So what did you do with that? Like, what was the next step?
The turning point was, I remember I got a speaking gig, and so I fly out to California, and I'm just like getting started. So fortunately, my partner lived there, so I stayed at his place, and he had the car, so I didn't have to get the rental car. And so I remember there's a promoter out there, and he says, you're going to be speaking in LA. It's a big city, so you're going to do four gigs. And so I started the first one, and he promised me the world, and you know, I get there, and like it's a third of the numbers, and it starts getting worse. So like by the time I hit the last gig, I'm speaking in a Denny's, Mira. And I am like right next to where the restaurant door or the kitchen door, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm selling with passion, and I'm getting them excited, and like they're walking out with the food like right by me, and I'm like the warm-up act too. So there was another speaker. So I said, you know what, I got to get back to my roots of marketing. So that's when I started figuring out funnels online before they became like popular. And Brunson created, you know, the software, ClickFunnels and all that. So we created a funnel online. I started selling it, but there came a point where I'm like, you know, business credit was an evolving business, and there was rules and regulations, and I was just like, it was there were parts of the business I didn't like, and there were other people in the space that weren't so cool. So I said, I need to like reinvent myself, and so I kind of set that intention, and that's when Dave had to reinvent himself. So the real estate market was crashing.
That was around the time then. So the real estate market. So I'm sure the credit was the credit crisis, you know, back in the day.
I think
that kind of came with it. The market was going. So I can see how the real estate and the credit was probably. I guess not the best space in it. So let's talk about the reinvention part. So how did you reinvent yourself?
So we're on the condo here in Tampa, and Dave's like sitting there on the dock of the Tampa Bay, and he grabs me and he sees me walking by. He's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm doing all these product launches for these real estate gurus, because I understood the marketing and I knew the speaking and the webinars and stuff. So I said, they're hiring me as a consultant to do these product launches. And he said, oh. He's like, well, you know, this company's not doing good. I need to reinvent myself. And I said, okay, great. What do you want to do? And he's like, well, a lot of people are asking me how I sell a $7,000 system, like from the stage in 90 minutes to a cold crowd. And so I said, okay, interesting. And he's like, and I asked him, well, what do you think we should do? And he's like, well, we should do what we always do, which is a seminar. And I said, great, when do you want to do it? And naturally, Dave's a salesperson, so naturally, and a big dreamer. And so, like, there's no constraints for Dave. He's like, I got to do this in 30 days. Like, you know, I'm on the brink of bankruptcy. So I need to reinvent myself. And so I'm like a marketer, and I say, Dave, 30 days, that's not a big enough window. I say 6 months. So then Dave comes back with 30 days, and I'm like, oh, this negotiation's not going good. So eventually we settle on 30 days. And so I think it's like 31 is the number. So I end up marketing. We had some relationships, and so we put 91 people, mainly real estate gurus, in a room called an event called the Speaker Makeover, which was the start of Speaking Empire.
All right, that's cool.
And so we did it. You know what's weird is we knew about selling and how to run a room, but like we were kind of all doing this on the side part-time, and so we didn't put a lot of thought into it until 91 showed up, and we're like, oh, we have something here. And so we're in the back room putting together a presentation. What's funny is Dave is like the chief salesperson. I'm like the marketing, but I'm the guy that delivers the pitch in that moment because I created the offer, the irresistible offer, and Dave's like, what the heck is that? So I end up going in and having to sell all these like gurus again that know how to sell. And so we sold our first program, 25K coaching program. We got one client in room 91, which is horrible. We didn't have any downsells. And so, but it didn't matter because Speaking Empire was born.
It was born, and sometimes that one sale is a matter of, you know, and especially at that time, I'm sure cash flow and starting new business, even one $25,000 client can get you maybe to the next client. And when you're saying Dave needing it to do it in 30 days because he needs money.
Yeah.
So at least this was maybe, a little Band-Aid and a little patch, but
that's right.
At least you got your first sale and, you got it to a good start.
Yep.
But so you mentioned briefly though that you were doing product launches for people before this. So that sounds like there was a gap between the credit stuff and the real estate. And then, so you work with some people as a marketing person or helping them launch. So that's how you really, I guess, maybe even monetize all the stuff that you learn from Dan and other people that you were studying marketing-wise. And I'm assuming that was a great kind of a school for you because other people were paying for the traffic and marketing and everything else. And you were just kind of playing around. Actually, I remember one time, around that time, probably you came to my house and you were telling me about how you wanted to start info product or coaching product for limo drivers, I think.
Yes, I was trying to find my way.
Yes. So definitely different ways, to dabble in, and you've probably seen a lot of things that I'm assuming, just like with, me going to school and changing my major 7 times, and then realizing when I started my own business that it was great that I did that because I learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you started Speaking Empire, after seeing all the different product launches and all the success and the different strategies, things that work and doesn't work, you were able to help these clients probably even in a much better way, and that's what you do till this day, really.
Yeah.
So you guys started. So if the timeline is correct in my head, it was during the downturn in the economy.
Correct.
So you guys were launching that business when things were down.
Correct.
And I was in the business at that time too. I remember I had to adjust. I didn't reinvent myself that much. I just adjusted a little bit to kind of survive the next 5 years. But tell me a little bit about how things are in a downturn economy, because it's cyclical. It's always going to happen. Yeah. It always goes up and down, whatever. So it's different when you have something that's already working real well, and then you can still kind of sustain it or survive at least, versus starting something fresh.
Yeah.
So for people that are starting something in less than ideal situation, how did it all go down? Like, tell me about that time, just in general, how it felt, and were there any challenges with these speakers? Because they were all kind of struggling after the high of the info business and all these seminars. And then, especially in real estate, they all kind of fell off.
Yeah.
And there was very few people teaching, real estate, even though I'm sure there were a lot of opportunities in the down market. So just tell me a little bit about that. Like, how do you deal with, continuing to move forward in those times and continuing to stay an entrepreneur? And working for yourself and pushing through with your goals. I'm sure you had to have some sort of, goal setting mindset, and having some sort of goal and why and something that drove you forward. But I don't remember you having a job anywhere outside of that from the time I've known you. So let's chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I don't know that I have an awesome, mind-blowing answer. I think the blinders were on. So I don't even remember, when you said it was the downturn, I didn't even really recognize that in my head.
Yeah.
And you, I suspect, are right. We were starting something new, and I think we were so niched. And so because we were new, we didn't know any better. And so, I knew the market was crashing because Dave was, he wouldn't have left that business if it weren't.
First time,
And so I think because we now moved into a niche where people were struggling, like speakers, like you had mentioned, they showed up. 91 people on 30 days notice showed up because there was a need. So they were trying to figure out probably what was happening. But for us, we were starting something new. We were just trying to sell something. So we got them in a room. And I was doing product launches, which was very popular at the time. And so even though the market was tanking, it was this idea that you can get a whole bunch of people to promote all at once and take over. People are still buying stuff. They don't stop buying. And so I started doing product launches, and then Dave was offering this idea of how do you sell from the stage? And so people still wanted to understand selling. And so Mira, really the answer for me is we just had those blinders on, and we were in a niche market, and we basically went back to what they needed and wanted. So they needed ideas and strategies for filling their seminars, which were depressed, or making money other ways. Product launch was one of them. Webinars was another one. Which minimized costs. They didn't have to do fill the room. They could do it from home, and so we offered that. But again, I think my mindset was we were just starting. We were just blinders mode.
Well, and then there's always the whole, not having the money and needing to do something.
Yeah.
Because you were probably not in a comfort zone and,
No.
sitting on a pile of cash, especially when you mentioned that Dave had, 30 days to, go bankrupt, I guess, or not have money to pay his bills.
He got me married because I had the credit card. So because I was the business credit expert, or I had done that. So
you started a business on your credit card?
I started, and so that 93,000, I actually leveraged all of it. So I was at one point, I didn't even look at the numbers. I don't know that I've shared this because I was afraid. Well, obviously when I was selling business credit, I didn't want to share this. Hey, go get business credit cards so you can leverage yourself to the hill.
Yeah.
I did, and so I was over 6 figures in debt. I remember one time, I didn't even want to know I had 5 or 6 different credit cards. I didn't even want to add them up. And then I finally said, okay, I got to dig myself out of a hole. And so then I created the system to do so. I added it all up, and it was over 100,000. So I was over 100,000 in debt. So it's over 100,000 in debt, trying to figure out what the next version of my life was going to be. So I was doing the product launch thing, Speaking Empire. We were doing part time to figure it out. And so I driven by that, and I had the blinders on, blinders to not want to look at the money that I owed, but also just to get after it.
And I think one of the takeaways is that you probably really the success came from you identifying the need. And then fulfilling the need. So maybe in the first event, out of 90 people, one buying, maybe today it would have been much, higher number.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I'd like to think so.
So people are looking for ways to make it still happen. And you fulfill the need. So that really is, whatever your passion is, whatever you're doing in your life, see if it's actually fulfilling a need or if it's just something you do because it, makes you feel good. But identifying a need and fulfilling it is kind of the, good formula for people to run their business. So okay, so now you got your first event. You started Speaking Empire. Now I'm assuming you were a business partner with Dave. You didn't work for him anymore.
Yeah, we were
on the second round, right?
And we had a third partner in the business, and so that was tricky because, that 25 grand, there was cost for the hotel. That money goes quickly, especially with 3 partners. And Dave, needed the money, and I needed the money being in debt, and I think the other partner needed the money at the time too. So it went pretty quick. So we did another event, and so we had a much smaller turnout because again we were doing other things to try to make money. This was part-time still. So we had 13 people in that room, and then we sold another 25K coaching client out of that. And I think we sold a 5K. We figured out, we should have something else to offer. So we sold another thing there. And then I don't recall, I know we did another event after that. And then we started to determine, we were selling this 25K coaching program for a whole year. But one of the gems as part of that was we would work on people's selling presentation. Then we got it down to a day. We called it a power day. So we'd write someone's whole presentation in one day, basically high-end consulting. And so we're well, why commit 25 grand for a year when we can charge 10 grand for a day? And so we started doing that.
And long story short on that part, you became really good at it. And then the word got around, and then every speaker that was in this industry, you were the go-to guys to go for the presentations. And you still are, even though now it's not necessarily one-on-one, usually the group power day.
Leverage.
To have several people at the same time, so you're leveraging now your time and your resources. So that's pretty awesome. So now let's talk about, now Speaking Empire is running, and it's still running to this day. That's you're the CEO of the company at this point. And it reinvented itself, obviously, probably along the way,
multiple
a few more times. So that would be probably another takeaway, is to really, see how you can reinvent your company. I have one of my clients calls it to be a water instead of a rock. So you got a rock, taffy, water. And you just gotta be able to, go where the clients are or where, things are happening. So don't be afraid of reinventing yourself. I remember I used to run the Professional Videographer Association in Tampa, which mainly consisted of wedding videographers. And I reinvented myself at one point after I met Dan Kennedy and got influenced by him and coined the video marketing expert term and started combining Dan Kennedy style marketing and my video knowledge and start making videos, marketing videos for companies. And I quit weddings, cold turkey. I just said one day, no more weddings. I told people I'm booked or I don't do weddings anymore. And within 3 years, we quadrupled our business. So it was the one thing. Sometimes you just have to kill, the dying horse and focus on the winning horse.
Yep.
So the whole reinvention, and those guys at those meetings, the reason I'm bringing this up, because they kept saying, how can I sell more weddings? How can I do more weddings? And I keep telling them, don't do weddings. Use the equipment you already have.
Right.
And I was open book. I was sharing with everyone what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so they all could have done it.
Yeah.
And then month after month, meeting after meeting, it's always, how can we do more weddings? And at that time, I just, couldn't crack the code. So, and I don't think anybody did. So they were the starving videographers making no money, and they were too close-minded to explore the opportunities and change. So it sounds like, part of being successful in business, really the reinvention and be able to be more fluid with what's going on is a good takeaway. So let's segue into what's going on now. So, the whole thing has shifted to you have stepped into a role of actually running the whole business, right?
Yeah.
And what's your life like today? What's going on?
I'm in the middle of a reinvention right now. So speaking Empire, primarily the face has been Dave. And so right now, Dave's on a spiritual path, and so he wants to pursue that. And I wish him the best. So we're figuring out what does the new Speaking Empire look like? And I'm really excited by it because I think it's going to be more he's got a domineering personality, and so I think it's going to be more my personality because I think the leader, it flows through the organization, and so I'm excited about the transformation that's going to occur. I think it's going to be more community driven, and it's going to be less about Dave and Dustin, and it's going to be more about the people that are part of the community.
Sure.
So life is crazy.
So everything's changing, and obviously the book is coming out soon.
Yes,
or by
the
time
book.
people see the video, it may be already out.
Get the book.
So definitely there's going to be a link below. Go to Amazon, go to wherever this book is being sold and get it for sure. So let's talk about personal side of success, right? So we covered the business part, and that's awesome. So now you have a business, making money, all that stuff.
Yeah.
At some point in everyone's life, typically there's a turning point where you shift a little bit from the business-minded. I think Russ Whitney was talking about the warrior stage, and then going to the statesman stage. So, you're married, kids, and all that stuff. Tell me about a point where you started realizing that there's more to life than just a business and working, for Dave for free and with Dave for money and whatever. You at some point, got married and started your family, and there's completely different values, I'm sure. And I have 2 kids myself, so I kind of know that there was a big shift in my life when I was, getting closer to my 35, 40s, which is kind of the time frame that even Russ Whitney mentions in his book and in his program. So let's dive into maybe the personal side and relationships. Was there a shift or a moment?
For sure. Well, it's funny because it's hard to separate the two. So I immediately think of the business example. So right now, it used to be ego. I'll start there and I'll get to personal. So it used to be ego. I was driven a lot by ego. Like I had to be the guy. I had to be the guru. I wanted it to be me. And so now I've realized in order to leverage and to supply my personal, which I'll get to in a second, I got to be better as an entrepreneur. And so I've got to figure out how do I not do all the actions in the business, but how do I motivate others? How do I create a team? How do I create culture in the business? And so now that's what I work on. And the whole reason why I'm even there is I'm very fortunate and blessed by my wife, Missy. And, I got a baby Dexter and one on the way. Well, he's a toddler now. And one on the way any day now at the time of this
it's awesome.
shooting.
I'm so excited for you. That's going to be just great.
And so Missy's really challenged me to think in different ways. And so she's like, you can't keep going the way that you're going. I mean, we have a family over here. We need some FaceTime. We need some love. And so she's right. And so it's challenged me to be a better business person. And it's challenged me to think, listen, I can't go from 5 o'clock in the morning till whatever at night. Okay, there's a constraint, right? Or there's a new term, which I never existed before. It's like, oh, just work harder, right? And so now it's like, okay, time is finite. Like I can't You know, like
Sure.
I can't go anymore. So what do you do?
Manage it, yeah.
And so without being challenged by Missy and saying, hey, listen, you know, like this is how you need to show up. And I get it, like, and I didn't realize it. And it sometimes takes that, like hitting the wall or having someone there to, tell you like these are your priorities, which she's right. And so now it's really caused me to create systems in business. So I can't remember a specific conversation because what I found out about my wife is this, and I'm sure the men listening in, because I've started to hear this now that I've shared it, she will tell me something and it'll take me 2 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
So have you?
For sure, and a lot of times,
I don't want to hear it. I want to tell her, no, it can't be. So, but I end up figuring out she was right. If only I'd listened 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that's how we don't listen to sometimes to people. You listen to Dan Kennedy, and if Dan says something, I have to do it right now.
Yeah.
But if your wife tells you something, you necessarily don't want to hear it. So, but was there at any point time where you actually felt that? Like, did you miss maybe on something because you were so busy at work that, you were neglecting the other side? Or was it, are you one of the lucky ones that actually had a partner that brought it to your attention in time so you didn't have to miss stuff in your, kids' lives or with, avoiding any confrontational parts, the growth moments, as I like to call it, in the relationship, because obviously we know a lot of people, and I'm definitely on that in the same boat where you need to kind of experience the pain before you adjust. So you get either some sort of rocky point in your relationship before you figure out, okay, I actually care about that person so much that I need to really do something to change. But
outside of the I think of a conversation. So I don't remember what day, but it was night, and so we're talking, and it's getting heated, and she's explaining her point of view, I'm explaining mine, and so I didn't get it in that moment, but we had a fight, if you want to call it that. We don't have many
it's the growth moments.
Growth moment. That's usually I like the better frame. And so it was that moment where like I had a point, she had a point, she was right, but it took me a while to figure it out, and then it made me realize, she is right, because if I look at the world this way, then I start to ask different questions, and that helps propel the business. And then the only other time it's come up is like I had a workshop that I had to lead, and so Dexter's school wanted to pack in everything that his school could do in terms of extracurriculars all in 1 week. And so I was doing the boot camp that week, and so I missed it. And I was bummed by it, so I couldn't do donuts with Dad. I remember that. Yeah. And so now what has occurred as a result, or was in process, but now I'm not going to have to worry about this. I'm not like the face of the workshop. So now we have someone that teaches. We've created a curriculum, so it's not just Dustin's talent. And so now it's interchangeable, so it doesn't have to be Dustin. Yeah. And so if I do want to speak there, great, I can speak for an hour after Donuts with Dad, and I don't have to be responsible for it. And so that's one that sticks out.
Which is great, and that's funny, like every school probably does Donuts with Dads, because I remember missing some of those occasions by traveling and just running the business by myself. Yeah. And now finally having people that work for me to actually do it. Yes. So I can be at, kids' graduations and these, Donuts with Dads, which is funny because I did go to a couple, and it feels good when you can make it, because the kids they don't see it. Like it's the most important thing to them. Yeah. I just went actually to my son's, they do a little certification award type thing at the end of the school year if you have good grades or whatever. And, I went to my daughter's one, and my son's was like 4 hours later. Yeah. And they don't live, very close. So I was like, okay, do I stay? Do I go? So I just imagined, I just went in and imagined if I was on that stage and there was nobody from my family in the audience. So I just stayed and just waited and, made it. But I can only do that because my life is already set up this way. So I can take the time, and just like with you. So, I guess the key takeaway from this thing would be really when you are an entrepreneur and you are the solopreneur, let's say, think about the next step. Think about how you can outsource some of the stuff you do, some of the tasks you do, possibly the ones that are not even worth your time. Yeah. Because if your time is worth $500 an hour, don't do $10 an hour work to keep yourself busy. So start looking for how can you free up your time. And not only that, but like imagine if it's just you and you get sick.
Yeah. Yes.
Something happens. Like we all like live like, tomorrow will always come and everything will always be perfect.
Yeah.
But what if it's not? And is the business gonna go without you, or is it gonna be done?
Yeah.
So I would definitely like to challenge you on thinking a little bit bigger, or maybe a lot bigger, and see where you can get and what is kind of the back to the where you are and where you want to be. Do that in your business. It doesn't have to be just in your life, in your personal life, but figure out where your business, where do you see the business to go, and where you are today, and then let's fill up the gap with some of the tools and resources we have. Like in this case, if you are a coach, author, speaker, and you need to get into a position where you speak to big audiences, or you're publishing your own products or books. So if that's your goal, let's figure out how we can get there. And that's like, your forte, for example, in this specific example, people can go and they can get involved in Speak in Empire. They can go to one of the Amplify events or whatever events you're putting on, workshops, and they can use those tools to supercharge their success and speed it up, for lack of better words, because you can try to do it on your own for 20 years, or you can go and find a mentor or someone who's done it.
Yeah,
and like now you listen to you for all these years, like you've done so much that I can't imagine anybody watching this video saying, oh, that sounds cool, let me do that too. Like spend 15 years trying to go through all this and trying to reinvent the wheel. So we're definitely gonna have some resources and some things below the videos, below this video, so you can actually get involved if this speaks to you.
Sure.
And you are in this boat, and this would help you actually fill the gap. Now, let's dive in a couple of maybe more rapid fire things so we can wrap up the interview.
Sure.
What's your why? What gets you out of bed?
My fear of public speaking. So it held me back for so long, and I've seen like the benefits of it. So you've heard the stat that people, like you mentioned earlier, you'd be in the coffin rather than giving the eulogy. And so I actually think there's one above that. So like speaking is one thing, but asking people for money, like selling, like that's, if they all say no and you're in a room of 100, that's 100 no's at once. And so like people are like, so I think that's a higher fear. So it is powerful. It can grow your business. It makes you a better leader. If you look at the most powerful figures in the world, they speak, they deliver talks, Steve Jobs, Mother Teresa, all the list goes on and on and on. So I believe that people should not be as introverted as I was and afraid, and get out there and do it and just get better and better and better. So that's my why, is I want to share that with others.
That's what gets you out of bed and just that keeps you dry.
Yep.
What's your day like? Tell me about, to do all the stuff we do.
Yes.
There is some sort of routine. So let's talk about, I want to touch on goal setting and some sort of routine. How do you keep your energy and how do you stay productive and still have enough energy to come home and play with your kid and, all that. So Coffee, huh?
No.
I know that you're not a big coffee drinker, but.
So what's interesting right now, I've changed my diet. So like I was a big sugar guy, and so sweet tea growing up in the South, Georgia. So, but I've changed that. So that's one. So we'll go to routines first. So what's interesting is I'm in this state of flux right now.
Okay.
So I have a coach, and so I would read something about a successful person and their routine. I would immediately implement it. And so there was this weight I would bring to the table of like, I should, and she's like, you're shoulding all over yourself.
That's fun.
And so, but it was that, so like my routine was I would get up, I would meditate, I would read like articles from business publications, I would read my affirmations, I would do this, and whatever new I learned, I would try to pack it into that like routine until my family woke up. So like, I would wake up at 4:45, and I still do. Like I still love getting early.
That's awesome,
because people don't bother me. There's no phones, no one's emailing, and so I get up early.
How do you do that? Is there anything? Are you just trained to do it, or is it?
No, I set the alarm.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't easy, but you got to get up.
Yeah.
And that's what I've realized. So I like the day today's Tuesday, so Monday I didn't do it. out of respect or out of not respect for my coach, but out of respect for the process of shoulding.
Yeah.
And so should I get up at 4:45? And so this is the mental game I play now as I figure this out. But I do know that I do like to get up early because it's my creative time. I can accomplish so much more, and I did it today. I accomplished so much more in that time. But on Monday, I didn't do it because I'm like, I'm just gonna let my body sleep. So I'm in this weird spot right now, but I love to get up early. I know I'm gonna get back to meditation. Right now I'm in like book launch mode. So like I'm grinding in the morning right now, but I know that I need to, I know I want to, not I need to, I want to structure my routine a little bit better in the morning. But I'm not gonna have expectation like it has to be done this way. So that is my routine. And then I will play tennis on Tuesday. So this morning I played tennis, which is awesome, for an hour. And then I drive to work. And then I crank. You'd asked me routine. Oh, goal setting.
So
goal setting.
Just about goals. I mean, statistically, only like 3% of people set goals. And they say the other 97% works for those people. Right. So so how can people get to the point where they are the goal setters? I mean, do you set goals?
I do.
Do you do it regularly or just sporadically? And tell me a little bit about that, because I know it's kind of a common denominator between all the successful people I know. Is setting goals and having clear vision of what you want to do.
So what's super crazy is I remember being in the condo that I was living in, being under the mountain of debt that I had acquired. But I remember doing the goal setting thing and reading the affirmation. And so I would write things down. I would get up in the morning and I would read it. And it was crazy because it's like people would pay, I was reading at the time, people are going to pay me 5 figures for a day of consulting. And so that would end up being the Power Day. I was blown away. Like it didn't happen right away, but it happened like 3 years later. And so now I printed them and I would read them every morning and then I put them in my bathroom. And so now my process is an Evernote. And so I'm still in that sort of figuring out my morning routine, but I had written my goals down and I noticed I was tweaking them. So if you never start, and they can be crazy and outlandish, if you don't start your goals, then you have nothing to start from. So you've got to start and then you refine it. And so now I'm in flux right now, but every moment before, what I would do is I would revisit my goals every day. And I would read them aloud, and then I would tweak and edit along the way. So I would goal set.
Daily,
I was doing it daily.
Routine,
I haven't been doing that now as I figure out my routine, but you have to write and start, and then you have to revisit to know if you're on or off the path.
And just keep on it. So, final words. Give me a handful of keys to success. If you had to boil it down to 1 or 2 words, let's just say everything changed. You lost it all. Speaking Empire crumbles to pieces. You left with your knowledge. What would you do? What are the most important things that you feel are responsible for your success?
Well, relationships. So immediately, given that scenario, so I'd go back to all my relationships. So that's the one thing that people can't take away from you. I mean, they can't take away your knowledge and they can't take away your relationships. Although, if Speaking Empire falls or any business falls, I'm sure you're going to have some pissed off people, like people you owe money to, clients, that sort of thing. But I would go to my most powerful inner circle relationships that understand that part of business is like
a mastermind.
You may fail, like mastermind, or even like your personal friends that you do in business. And I would figure out what are they missing in their life, like business-wise, and how can I provide value? So I would come from a value mindset.
So providing value.
And I would ask them, they might not hire me to do something, but they may say, well, this person needs something, or what if you did this? And so I would go fishing for ideas from people that I respect and have knowledge and expertise. And I would figure out what the thread is and where my body takes me.
For sure. So figuring out where you can provide some value.
Add value. You got to add value. So, but I would go back to the relationships and figure out that. And so, because my relationships happen to be with influencers, a lot of them, and clients and stuff. But I would go there because there's leverage there. And so, if someone says, "Well, why don't you sell a new course or something?" Great, because they can put me on a stage, or they can blast out a social media message or whatever. So I would go there, and I would figure out how do I create that value. Now, immediately when you asked me the question, the first word that popped in my head is momentum. And so I usually say this: whatever your goal is in life, this theme of losing weight keeps coming up. I don't know why. Losing weight, but finding the love of your life. Maybe it's to write a presentation, right, or write a book, right? Self-servingly, right? So whatever your goal is, if you'll take one action a day, and to me, an action is go on a podcast and listen, go to Google and research, go to a seminar, like whatever it is. It can be a small action, because what happens is when you take one action a day for 365 days, 1 year, you'll be amazed at where you end up. And oftentimes, because you've taken an action a day and built momentum, it's not going to take you that whole year.
For sure.
So momentum's my
So
answer.
Momentum and taking action would be really, I guess, either separate key or part of it. But
yeah, that's where you learn.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds great. So we have value, add value.
Yep.
Get moving, catch momentum.
Catch momentum, yep.
And take action.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty awesome. Any relationship advice?
Any relationship.
On the other side, keys to success in the relationship?
Yeah, I think it's give more value. I mean, value is a different, it's termed differently or defined differently, I should say that. So I would say show up for that person and always figure out how to surprise them and always figure out how do you add more value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine that when I saw them they were 60 years and still holding hands and kissing and stuff.
Be goofy.
And I'm like, what are you doing to like make this happen? Like this is like so cool. And he told me that him and his wife were every day thinking about what they can do for the other person. Yeah. Like outdoing themselves almost as a competition. Yeah. And I thought it was pretty cute. And at 60 years old, like, you know, that's like 40 years of being married. It was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
And also, I think it was Zig Ziglar. I talked to Tom Ziglar, his son.
Yeah. Yep.
And he asked me if I wanted to know his dad's secret to successful marriage. And he said that you're supposed to treat your wife the same way you treated her before she became your wife.
Oh,
so treat her the same way, you know, after the marriage like you did before the marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that was really awesome. So
that's huge.
You know, for relationships, you know, those two nuggets, I think I always go back to it when it's been years since that happened, but it's pretty awesome. So, well, hey Dustin, thank you so much.
Yes,
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your wisdom of knowledge.
Yep.
I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I actually did myself. So we're gonna put some gifts and some value added stuff under the video that you can grab if you wanna dive deeper with Dustin and Speak an Empire, and if that makes sense for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next interview.